Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. You give me my drink. Like Samantha said, it was kind of last minute and I had a little bit of time open up. And so I just thought, hey, let's do this. And so what I'd like to do is, we went through and we did our processes in the class. And when we started doing the body map, we didn't really go blow by blow. We just did like, okay, let's do the legs, let's do the arms. But let's do a little bit of a deeper dive into what some of these pieces are, right? So with that, we're going to kind of bounce around and treat a couple of different things. And so pull out your kit, and the very first thing you're going to need is your violet flame. Your violet flame. Okay, and so what I'd like you to do is we're going to kind of reflect on some of these. Keep in mind that these are like triggers or responses to things that have happened that then somaticize in the body, right? So it could go either direction. It could be because of something that's happened or because of something going on in the physiology, these things begin to get triggered, right? And so the one that I want to target right off the bat is recall a time where you just have had some sort of conflict. It might have gotten resolved, not resolved. It might be that you're in the middle of it right now. Could be 10 years ago, but it still kind of bothers you a little bit. And is Letty on? And so like Letty, do you mind? Let's have you pop up front, and I'm going to use you as an example.
Did you want to remove?
Okay.
Yeah. So remember how we were talking over the weekend, and you were saying how your daughter's boyfriend said something kind of, I can't even remember what it was, but said
It was something rude, yeah.
Yes,
He's just
so something rude.
Mhm.
So, and you said like, boy, for like a week or so, you had a hard
sat
time
with it.
letting go of it. Like, it was still kind of grinding on you a little bit. You
Mhm.
want to just describe it? You don't have to go into the details, but like you just go like, it just kind of pokes you a little bit afterwards, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. No, because I went to go see my daughter, right? And then he wasn't feeling well, that he had, I guess, had been drinking or whatever. So he didn't go with us to the store. My daughter and I went to Costco, and then we got back, and then all of a sudden he comes out of the room and he tells me, you're still here? Like, just like laughing, and I just like looked at him and I was like, I didn't really say much, but I just thought like that's pretty rude. And so
Yeah.
I kind of sat with it for about a week just to make sure, like, I mean, I've known the kid for a long time. Like, he went to school with my older son, so I have known him when like he was like little, but still, like, you should still have that respect for the adult. Like,
Right.
he's an adult, but I'm saying for like as the parent, as Bella's
Well,
mom.
well, respect for an adult, and he's also dating your daughter. Like,
Yes.
that's like, it's a double whammy. So the reason why I called on you, like, so now it's been like a week or 10 days or so. How does that feel? Like, when you go back and think about it, does it still bother you? Does it still affect you?
No, like the event's there, but it's not really affecting me like it was.
Okay.
Because after what we did
On the
Saturday,
weekend. Yeah.
by Saturday it was kind of gone. And then also I had that other issue with that student, that she was lost, and it
Right.
kind of just like it bothered me
They all
because
dissipated somewhat.
yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I was going to use you as an example, and maybe we'll still use you as an example just to see what happens after we do this. And so everybody, let's pull out your violet flame. And your awareness here is going to be on the calves. And your calves are a trigger for like conflict. If you think about like fight or flight or the need to run or something like that, when there's a conflict, it starts to cause like certain tensions in your body. And so be it that something happened to you, or like here it was a verbal thing, or even if it's a hypothetical, still can reside in the calves, right? So think of the situation first. something with a conflict so you can just measure it. And then practice body awareness on your calves. You're not even inhaling yet. Just practice body awareness on the calves. And now begin inhaling the violet flame with your awareness on the calves. You're just focusing on the calves. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breath from the back of your knee all the way down to your Achilles tendon. Okay, and then just pause for a moment. And then your calves, your awareness is on the calves again, and you're taking some nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And then just pause for a moment. Do you feel how the body kind of calms down? So these spots stimulate instinctive responses. And so you don't really process it with your mind. You don't really feel it with your emotions. You just have a behavior or a feeling that pops up that's based on these areas. And so it's not like your emotions are generating them. Your mind's not generating them. They're being stimulated by your physiology. Right. And so let's do it one more time. Your awareness is on the calves. And you're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Okay, and then just be still. Reflect on the situation that you chose to evaluate, that you chose to observe. And Letty, how does that situation feel now? I know it sounds like it was doing a lot better than it was, but just in the last 5 minutes, does it feel the same? Does it feel different? I'm just curious.
It feels different. It's almost like I have to like think about it to get to it. Like it's not
Right. So
like
it's getting harder to harder. Like, so if you think about like what Letty was saying, even though she was feeling better from the stuff that we had done on the weekend, like when somebody like pokes you, like, and you go away and you're like, there was some energy behind that. There was, basically something. And if you look at this whole body map is what you would call diminishing. It's one of the aspects of the force of failure, right? And it just means that it puts the body in like a stress state, right? And so the person, that boy took a shot at her and she walked away, and it wasn't even like her mind or her emotions, something just rattled her because his energy body shot something at her energy body. And so why she couldn't like process it is it's in the physiology. So you try to sit and you like make sense of it, like, why does that bother me? Why they said this, they said that. We all have those, like that is part of normal everyday life. It might be somebody like a clerk at a store, or you're talking to your mom, or and they say just a little and then it lands, and then you start to have a reaction like, why can't I shake that off? Emotionally and mentally, you might be fine with it, like you're just like, oh, they're this or they're that, right? But it's hit your physiology and it's stirring something in the instinctual responses, and when that is agitated, it is what you would call the force of failure. It starts to kind of knock your feet out from under you a little bit, right? And so later it turns into an emotional response, and then even later it turns into a thought process. But at first it's just the poke that feels agitating, right? So with that, let's just stay on this like little interesting thing, and let's move to the shins. Right, so your awareness is on the shins, which is along the bone in your lower leg, so that muscle area along that big bone, and you're focused on that area, and now you're taking long, slow, deep breaths. So keep inhaling. So this could be your feelings got hurt, or it would stimulate you feeling like your feelings got hurt. Could go either way. Yeah, that's good. And keep inhaling, but if you started paying attention more to your body, like when you're having an interaction with somebody where maybe they're being aggressive or snotty or something, you'd start to notice that your body tenses up in certain areas, like your body, like, oh, I don't know if I like this person, or I'm confused when I'm around this person. It's just because they're maybe emanating something that's not nice. It's not conscious, but it's not nice. And it goes to what we were talking about over the weekend, where, you can have all the different systems and symptoms and everything, but a person's body can be in a certain state. Like, they're just in a state of, you know, state of pain, a state of, we don't have normal words to describe these things. No, it's the muscle. Like, yeah, good question. The shin muscles, like go to the shin and then along the shins. Yeah. And then just pause for a moment. And then again, along the shins, you're inhaling, you're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And then just be still. And again, just kind of look at that situation and notice how you're feeling. And Letty, do you mind like kind of giving a little feedback?
Greg, it's like it seems like it's harder and harder to bring up like the event. Like I
Like in
can't,
in
like
even
not
when you
recalling it.
even when you think of the kid, the guy, like
Mhm.
how do you feel about him, like when you think of him, like if you go past the event?
I mean, I'm just like there's just the thought about him there, but there's no
It's
feelings
like
on
you
that.
just feel kind of neutral. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Like you're just like, you know either he gets bigger, better, or she figures it out.
Yes.
It's what happens. Now, I just want to show, as we're doing this experiment, how focusing on each area produces like a different result. So we've done the calves, we've done the shins. Let's go to the ankles. So do the front, the sides, and the back of the ankle. Your awareness is on the ankles. The ankles are about instability, right? Like whenever you feel unstable or somebody's knocked your feet out from under you, where you feel it is in the ankles. So just take some long, slow, deep breaths with your awareness on the ankles. And just pause for a moment. You know, you're trying to figure out what just happened. Yeah. Mhm. Okay, ankles again. Now, sometimes if you have like an arthritic area or an injury, something that impacts a particular area, that too could stimulate some of these um, lower responses. Okay, be still. Reflect on that situation where there was some conflict. Now, your ankles are instability, but your knees is where you feel harmed, or the feeling of harm is there. Like I can because I've had multiple surgeries on my knee, on both knees actually. And sometimes in my meditation I always felt like something bad was going to happen to me, and I forgot about the body map. And I was just like, God, well, am I clairvoyantly seeing something in the future? Am I having, some sort of, I don't know, prophecy or whatever, what do they call it? Don't call it prophecy. They call it, well, anyway. And when I treated my knees, that feeling went away. So like I could feel this feeling when I was like really quiet and still, like I feel like I'm being harmed or I'm about to be harmed. And I was just like, I have no clue to what that is. It was my knees. It was totally my knees. And so not only did that feeling go away, but when I treated it, my knees stopped hurting like they did. And I would say, I think I was 23 when I had the last round of surgeries on the knees. And I was supposed to have a series, like in a couple of years, another surgery on each knee. And then by the time I was 30, I was supposed to have another set of surgeries on my knees. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Like, that's just, you know, that's crazy. And so I just lived with the pain, you know. And as time went on, I would feel this like, just always feel like something bad's going to happen. I can't shake it. When I treated this in my knees, like I laugh now, but it was starting to be a little bit consuming. It's funny to me now, but in the time it was not funny. But it was just all this feeling that would get triggered from my knees. And if you think about like your body's posture and its movement and everything, it sends impulses to the brain like, hey, we're not stable. Hey, something's going on. Hey, I feel harmed. Hey, and these impulses are not thoughts the way you think about things in your mind. It's just these little like messages that keep going up into the emotional body and the mind. And then eventually you're like, "God, what is that about?" And you try to make sense of it, but it's just this low grade sense. right? It's not even a feeling yet, it's just a sense, right? What you're sensing are these triggers, right? And then eventually it turns into emotion, right? Oh, my feelings are hurt. Who hurt my feelings? And then, then the story happens like this is probably what happened, right? When really it's more about this, right? So we've done ankles and instability. Let's go to the knees, the front, the sides, and the back of the knees. And you're inhaling, you're still using your violet flame. You're still on your knees. You're taking long, slow, deep breaths. And then pause and be still. That's actually, yeah, yeah. Samantha's saying, uh, like she feels stronger, and it's okay if I just.
Mhm.
So she had a thing where she injured one of her ankles quite badly, many years ago, and you know, she walks fine and everything, but it's always a little bit of a thing. You know what I mean? Like she'll be fine and then it bothers her, or um, you know, it's just prone to injury a little bit. And so, when she did the part on the ankle, it kind of like it stirred something, right? Like that's the best way to say it, is it just kind of stirs something. And then as she's going through and doing this, it's like, okay, now I'm feeling stronger and stronger. It's like you're getting your legs under you. Think of it as your body is sensing these areas, and it's processing that information, not how your mind does it, it's how the body does it. And the body speaks a very different language, very different language, right? So give yourself a break for a moment. And then the knees again, front, the sides, the back. You're inhaling with your awareness on the knees. And then just be still for a moment. Now, the back of the legs, the hamstrings, have to do with being vulnerable, like feeling vulnerable, being vulnerable. You know, they tighten up because of fight, flight, or you need to handle some situation. So it's like locked and ready to go, right? So when the hamstrings are really wound up, there's some sort of vulnerability from usually some sort of past issue, like a past trauma, a past event, you know, could be injury, could be emotional, mental, could have been a relationship, it could be all kinds of things, but it's somaticized into the body, right? It does it to everybody. Like it's not like some people it does it and some people it does. It happens to everybody, right? So your awareness is on your back of your legs, from the top of your leg all the way down to the back of your knee. And then just be still. So you can see, like when we focus on one little area, it's good, but when we focus on a series, it produces an even deeper effect. And when you start to do combinations, this is when you start to do what we call the compounds, like you're compounding these 3 or 4 different areas, putting it together to unwind a certain kind of sensation or sense that you're feeling in your body, in the emotions, in your instinctual responses. And so now let's do inhalation, but your awareness is on the whole leg, like from the hips, the whole thigh, the whole knee, the lower leg, and even go all the way down to your feet. And then just be still for a second. So let me say this like a slightly different way. We're dealing with a very abstract idea. This is not supported by bodies of knowledge that are in orthodox medicine or even a lot of holistic practices. Sometimes people will say, oh, the shoulder has to do with this or shoulder has to do with that, but it's tied more to how the mind thinks, right? This is tied to the inner sense, right? The inner sense. Like it's not necessarily a feeling, like it's not necessarily an emotion, it's not necessarily a thought, but it's you have a sense of something. And eventually it will turn into an emotion, eventually turn into a feeling, eventually it will turn into a thought. But at first it's just a sense, right? And so this is all tied to the Ming Men, right? The area of your low back. And when this has been tempered enough, it starts to shift and change the Ming Men. The Ming Men usually fluctuates quite a bit. The Ming Men shoots energy up towards your head and distributes energy all through your body, but it's also the center that transmutes things in the body, which is another way of saying it raises the vibration, right? It raises the vibration of the body. It's also tied to energizing the mind and the brain, and gives us some of our mental faculties, including the tendency for accurate perception, right? If too much of this is stimulated, it's hard to have accurate perception because it's like too much noise in a room and somebody's trying to talk to you. You just hear too much static, right? So when you calm all these things down, the inner sense goes from the noise of the body. The inner sense starts to be, you start to pick up on deeper levels of emotion. You're able to go more inward. You're able actually to perceive the soul to a higher degree, the little whispers of the soul. And so the archangel associated with this particular center is the Archangel Raphael. The planet is Mercury. You know, it's about harmonizing, it's about healing. Like if you are really have unwound the things that impact the Ming Men, your ability to heal yourself becomes highly amplified. Highly amplified. You basically are diminishing the force of failure, and the force of failure is a fancy way of saying stress, attachments, and stress patterns, right? You know, we get hooked into these patterns, and all of a sudden the behavior is not necessarily what's best for us. It's just this little dance that we do that causes stress because we've learned it, right? And so by going through and unwinding this, you develop a deeper inner sense rather than just sensing these things. You're going past that and you're really developing that inner awareness. Basically, you're starting to realize an aspect of yourself. You know, like realizing the self, there's like levels. And one of the levels is quieting down the body, just quieting down the body substantially. When you quiet the body down, there's a potential for greater heart activation, right? And then when the heart becomes activated, it quiets down the emotions, and then there starts to be the potential for greater mental activity, right? So you could say, if you're trying to be like just being yourself, being who you really are, if you can calm down this agitation, you get closer to being who you are rather than your conditioning. And you know, some of the esoteric things that people would say is that you know, there's really not a lot of people that are bad just by their nature. They're bad because of their conditioning, like just the things that happen to them, the agitation in the body, the conditioned responses, the static that they just hear all the time, and makes them behave in really weird ways, right? And so if we know that that is a potential, if we can calm that down, then not only are we experiencing like peace and stillness and things like that, you get to feel better. You get to feel better about yourself. You get to feel better um, in daily life. Even when negative things happen, you're just like, big picture, not that big of a deal. Or big picture, I got to do something about that because it is a big deal. But it'll be okay if I handle it, right? I put my attention on it. So let's just do one more cycle of closing your eyes and inhaling with your awareness on the legs. And then just pause. And Letty, how do you feel?
I feel really good. I was actually like thinking, oh my God, I need to be careful because I might just be falling asleep here.
Yeah, it's very soothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like if you think about the remark and your daughter's boyfriend, like how does that seem right now?
Like there's just nothing there really. Like I
Yeah,
just think of
feels
it
like
like
he's
he's
just a
just a
silly
person.
kid. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
just a silly kid. Yeah. And so the more that these things get calmed down, also like when these things happen, they don't impact you as much. They still impact you, but you're able to shake them off. But we still need to tune this up from time to time because we never get to the place where like, I've arrived, I've worked the body map, I'm done. It's just a thing that always happens. But if it's already agitated, it just takes a little bit to agitate it more. But if you keep calming it down, things just keep getting better and better. And so like I'd like to explore, we're going to do a little Q&A and share experiences, but I'd like to explore just one more. Let's shift from the violet flame and out of your kit, pull out the assemblage point. We're going to do things with the pelvis, the low back. Okay, so you're going to inhale and your awareness is on the whole front of your pelvis. So the sex organs, but side to side, like above where the thigh attaches, just across that whole area, side to side on the front side of your pelvis. And then just pause. So this front part is more about like self-sabotage, like the hips and pelvis, lower abdomen, lower back are all about the self. You know. So again, that whole front side of the pelvis. And now just be still. Now the backside, like the butt cheeks basically, have to do with self-awareness or lack of self-awareness. So begin inhaling with your awareness on the backside of your hips, the butt cheek. Hold up. Yeah, right. Working your butt is kicking your butt. Yeah. And then be still. We just worked that once. Let's go a little higher. So above your hips, above your butt, all the way up to the Ming Min, which is the backside of your navel, that whole low back area, across side to side, that whole low back area. Let's have you inhale on that area. This has to do with self-sacrifice. Another way of saying self-sacrifice is maybe taking on burdens that aren't yours. Mm. Okay, just be still. Like I'll give you a version of self-sacrifice. Like I'll use myself, even though, you know, not something that I'd like to talk about or admit, but I'll do it. I'd say for a while, my family wanted me to like be something, like do a particular thing in my life, you could say, and you know, I would work towards it, but I really didn't want it. But like, I don't even know that it registered that I didn't want it. I was just like, that's what you do. Like, you just do it. And as I got closer and closer to it, like you would think like, oh, isn't that exciting? And I was like, not really. Right. And, you know, I was putting effort to do this because that's what the family thought I should do. And like not only did the low back like flare up, I literally broke my low back. You know, I broke bones in my low back. And so this became this all consuming thing. And then even one day I just had the realization I don't care. I really don't care. And I wasn't being true to myself. I wasn't doing what I felt driven to do or what I thought to do. I was letting somebody else tell me what I should do or what their expectations were. And then I was just like, okay, I guess I'll do that. And you know, I was sacrificing that part of myself. And I couldn't even tell you why. I just was doing it. Couldn't tell you why. And you know, because of the injury, I still have back stuff, but I was supposed to have a surgery on my back like 30 years ago. And I'm just like, nope. And as long as I do this kind of work on my low back, you know, I have my moments where it flares up and everything. But, you know, even the last doctor that looked at it, he looked at the x-rays and he was like, holy crap, how are you moving around? And, you know, because it's the low back area was badly injured. And I was just like, I don't know. And he goes, well, how many pain pills are you taking a day? And I go, I haven't taken pain pills for like probably 20 years. And he was like, okay. Well, how are you managing this? And I was like, it's not that bad most times. Like, you know, I do my little oils and take some herbs here and there, but I don't even do that consistently. I just when it flares up. And part of it is for me, it was unwinding this self-sacrifice thing. Like that was a big pattern in my life. And so, yes, the injury's there, but you know, even when it flares up, it's very manageable, you know, without pain pills, without anything. And, you know, if you need pain pills, I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm not. I don't think people should be in pain. It's hard on the body. But, you know, it would be great for us to get to a place where we don't need them or we just need them every once in a while. But until then, you use the, you know, whatever it is to manage it. But anyway, so, you know, we had this little experiment of going deeper into the sections. And so even if you don't do the body wisdom next weekend, you know, because this is what we're doing, is we're going deep in this, I still wanted you to have the skill set of working the body map from the class back in September. Like you can still do a deep dive with the things that you're doing here. So let's go ahead and mute yourself and type in if you want.
Yeah, go ahead, Regina.
Hey, Regina.
Hey.
I wanted to ask, talking about that on the subject of sacrifice,
Mhm.
because it's kind of boggles my mind a little bit. I don't quite understand it, and you gave some great explanations of it. But when it comes to like sacrifice, sometimes I've heard in the past, sacrifice to God. I'm a sacrifice to God.
Yeah, that would be different. Like that, yeah, that would be different. This is more of like not being true to yourself.
Uh-huh.
Like the sacrifice to God is more of like an emotional or mental thing that you're like, okay, I'm making sacrifices to have a family. I'm having sacrifices to raise the kids. Those are different. This is more about like sacrificing like yourself, your well-being, you know, being like a simple one would be, okay, I work this job, I'm on salary, the boss is demanding more of me, I'm going to do this because I don't want to make him upset, even though it might be costing me at home with my family or with my health or whatever, and you still just do it anyway. Like it's more of that kind of sacrifice.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can happen.
Making those other sacrifices, those are not so much in the body. Those are more in the emotions and the mind. And so they're, even though the word is the same, the nature of them is very, very different.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, how are you doing, by the way?
I'm hanging in there.
Good.
And go ahead, Barbara, then Linda.
Hey, Barbara.
Thank you. I thought Linda was ahead of me, but thank you for doing this. And I noticed the first part of it, that each section I was working on, some of the body part would draw my attention.
Mhm.
And it was hard not to head toward that rabbit hole. And so I would look and see, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? And it was an interesting collection of things that I strung together by chasing after those rabbit holes. And for a moment, the lower self thought, well, these are attributes of the person responsible for this conflict. And then I said, no, you're projecting your own stuff on her. And it was just, it was
Mhm.
really, so is there anything to what comes up in another body part when you're focused on a particular one?
There are combinations that eventually turn into compounds, and so they do kind of interlink and can have that effect. And so one of the ways that you can do it is just follow the body map here. And so like if you go, you're working the calves and it was like, oh, it goes up into my hips, then you would pull out the oil for the hips, which we just did with the assemblage point. You'd work that and then you go, but now I feel it in my neck. And then so you'd go up and you would use the oil that was specific for that. And even if you didn't have the compound, you're still working the compound in that way. The thing that we kind of do at the end, I can't remember what I called it, the mystic flow technique. Like after you're all done, do the mystic flow technique just to flush things out of your system afterwards. It just keeps things moving.
Okay, so hopscotching is fine.
Yeah, hopscotching is actually expected.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually expected. Like if you think about like when we did abandonment over the weekend and we're going to do it next weekend, it's the inner thighs, it's the mid back and your upper back. And yeah, they're kind of connected, but even like the feelings of like trauma or being traumatized, sometimes it's the calves, the back of the legs, and then the back of the neck. And so there's just like these like weird patterns that they, like you said, hopscotch, but they produce like a certain emotion. Yeah.
Okay, so far they don't seem related, and but I'll just play with it and see what
They
happens.
they won't seem related in your mind. In your body, they're
Okay,
related.
yeah.
But like in your mind and your emotions, you'll be like, because we're thinking of like, okay, maybe my movement or maybe this, but it's almost like think of like an energy blast hit your body, and it's just going to hit certain areas more than others depending on what kind of energy it is. That's kind of what happens, like when we interact with different people, even with nature. That's kind of what's happening, is you have these things kind of bombarding in your field, and it just causes these reactions.
Okay, thank you for that. And the
Yeah.
last thing, suggestions on how to not get fixated on what the meanings are for all of these spots.
Do the mystic flow thing at the end.
Okay,
That just
okay.
like, it should just flesh it out. I mean, you might spend time like thinking about it and everything, but trust me, I could have turned pro at that in my early days.
I figured you could
It
offer some advice
never,
from experience.
yeah, it never pans out. Like, even if you kind of figure out that's probably from this, so much more has happened in that area than that one situation.
Right.
It's not about a one situation. It's more about patterns.
Okay, that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And go ahead, Linda, then Teresa.
Hey, Linda.
Hey, Greg, nice to see you.
Hey.
So I don't tend to have a lot of conflict with people and things that hit me. Sometimes I do, and I came up with a couple things while we were working. But the question that actually arose for me was, is this just a good thing to sit down and do once a
Yeah.
week? Just anyway, kind of a thing?
Yeah, you could do the general thing like we did in the class, where you did, instead of going into real deep into each little aspect of the body, we did like the arms and the legs, and then we did the pelvis, and then we did the abdomen, and then we did the chest and the back and the mid back. You could just do that version, but like if you have some time, I would go a little bit deeper into these different parts, because again, it's not so much like what our mind and emotions feel, it's what the body senses. And it's just a way of calming down the body to a much higher degree.
Right. So how would I know what would be the right thing to do?
I would just start exploring. Like it's like almost, like how we started with the arms and legs. I'd start with the arms and legs and just go, I'm gonna see what this feels like, what that feels like. And sometimes you don't really have any response, and then sometimes something really surprises you. And so usually the legs and the torso are the big ones, the real big ones. And so I would just say, explore the legs a little bit, and then maybe go up into the back and the abdomen and the chest and all that, and just see how that feels.
Okay.
Because it's hitting us in a way that's unconscious. And so you might feel relief about something that you never would put two and two together about. Never in a million years.
Okay.
And if you think about like even deeper, when we have karmic imagery come through, which comes through in our blood, sometimes what's happening is it's turning some of these areas on. And so usually you can still see the pattern in your life, but the more you keep it calm, the less, like when that imagery really is flowing through the blood, you just don't really react to it very much.
So one of the things I have a pretty strong reaction to is I live in an apartment where I have somebody above me, and when she gets ready for work in the morning, especially around 5 o'clock in the morning, she's moving very fast up there and very loudly, and it sounds like she's pounding on my head, and the apartment like vibrates, my walls vibrate, and I have a brown noise that I put on, so I sound I feel like I'm in a jet engine, so at least that noise is something my brain can handle in a different way than it can with the pounding. Any thoughts on like, would one of these particular things help me with that trigger that I get when it's, because I get mad.
Yeah.
I just get mad.
Okay,
It's
so
like
you get angry. Okay, so let me
Yeah.
look something up here.
okay.
This will be like right out of the class that's coming up weekend. Body of wisdom. Okay, so do the back hips, your upper back, and the back neck. So the hips is what, assemblage point. The I have to look it up again. Hold on. Okay, so the upper back is
Emotional release.
yeah, emotional release, and then the back of the neck is mana. You know,
Okay.
in
Is there a substitute for mana? Because that's one I don't have, I don't think.
it's in the kit. Yeah.
This kit, the body mapping kit.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Oh, see, there's so many oils in there. I haven't even got to them all.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like when we do the body wisdom class on this coming up weekend, we're using a slightly different oil, where you would work just the one oil on those 3 spots, but from the body mapping class in September, use the 3 oils for each section. Yeah,
Great. Thank you. I will give that a try.
yeah, yeah. And then let us know how that worked.
Will do. Oh, I should report back real quick. Hip bursitis. You gave me a thing with the German chamomile. I had a couple of different people using it, and it definitely has unwound a lot of the pain, especially the
Oh,
pain
good.
they feel in the groin area, I guess, because of
Good.
it. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Good. Yeah. And there's somebody else.
Yeah, there's a handful of people still. Go ahead, Teresa, then Ralph.
Hey, Teresa.
Hey, Greg. Fantastic to have this opportunity tonight. I'm curious about a couple of things. So I didn't feel any pain in those areas until we started working them. And like, first of
Did
all,
it come and go, or is it like it woke something up?
I think it woke something up. Well, 2 things. The situation made me want to go to the back heart and the front heart, even though I was directing it elsewhere. And since we've been working on it, yeah, I feel pretty nauseous. So I don't know if it's a detoxification of something. And it really hurts in the lower back.
Yeah, like the low back looks like it's that's releasing something, but it's not out all the way. So
Okay.
maybe let's have you like inhale, and before we leave, let's see how you're doing. I want to make sure you feel nice and stable. But
Okay.
it's like it's coming out, but it's not all the way out.
Okay.
So I would say especially that low back area, just keep working that with the assemblage point. Keep working that low back area for a few minutes while we're talking.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
And you had another question though?
No, that was it.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, so just do your low back and let's see how you are. I'll come back around to you in about 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks.
Perfect.
And go ahead, Ralph, then Robert.
Hey, Greg.
Hey.
I have a pattern of knee injuries and low back injuries.
Mhm.
So if a person has a pattern of having injuries in a particular area, does that usually indicate that there's something there that has been ignored? And this is the
It's
body's
not
way of
necessarily that
going,
can be ignored, but the injuries could also cause those feelings to get stirred up. And
okay,
so it doesn't really matter, you could say, oh, maybe it was karmic, maybe it was this, or maybe something's getting ignored, but it's more about just that area, like the body senses things going on in that area. And so like if things are going on in the environment, it might tense those areas up, but if it's really bad, it could make you predisposed to injury.
Mhm.
And so it's not necessarily like, oh, there's some big emotional thing that I'm avoiding. A lot of times it has to do with more things in the environment, like other people, situations, events, things like that. So I would work your knees, your legs, your hips, and your low back a lot, because like my experience is the more that you unwind it, the easier those things become to treat. Like they become much easier. Like it might not make them completely go away, but it definitely makes it easier to treat. Like they are more responsive to whatever healing approach you're putting into those areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Thanks.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Robert, then Christy.
Hey,
Greg.
Robert.
So I mentioned to Sam during the portion on the legs, I could barely stay awake. I dropped the bottle 3 times in a very short time. So there was something very deep. And then when we switched to assemblage point, I said, oh, I love assemblage point. But I couldn't maintain a focus. I couldn't even remember what we're supposed to be bringing our awareness to. So part of me says, well, I need to do more work on the legs because I went so deep. And part of me says I need to do more work on the hips and lower back.
Probably more on the hips and low back.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the ones that I get deep, it isn't as necessary, and the ones that
You still can work it in, but like when you really start to go deep like that, it's you're tapping into that inner sense, and so it's still a way to get into that inner sense, but you probably don't need as much work as like you do with the low back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you much.
Yeah. But like if you think about it, like if you're having a hard time falling asleep at night, you work those legs and knocks you out. Boom, you're asleep. So it's still a way to access that inner place.
Right. There's a place for it, but it's not necessarily a shift for the purpose of something that's triggering us. It's using it to relax our body into a certain space.
Right.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
And go ahead, Christy.
Hey, Miss Christy.
Guys. So I hope I can articulate this well because I keep thinking on how to phrase this, but essentially what I'm trying to figure out and sit with is obviously we're doing things where there's been aggression or there, whatever. But for several weeks, maybe a month now, I keep having this sense, like you've talked about, where something maybe is coming with an individual where there's been no negativity ever, like nothing. It's in most contact is occasional phone calls and social media, but I keep getting the sense to no longer respond to this individual. And in developing of the 3 brains, because logically it doesn't make sense to ignore this individual, but I keep getting a really strong feeling to not do that. So what do I need to do as far as honing the 3 brain process of like kind of seeing or figuring that out?
So you guys don't have any sort of issue going on, but it feels like something's coming.
I just keep getting, like, I started getting the feeling of just be careful what you say, don't share too much. And then I got a real strong feeling of just don't respond, which makes me feel super guilty because I don't want to be rude.
And it's an acquaintance, a friend, a business.
An acquaintance friend. She used to live here and was part of the spiritual community here, and then moved away. And you know, she'll call me every now and then we, you know, communicate via social media. So she's not someone that's a super close friend.
Honestly, what I would treat as the guilt. I don't think there's a thing for you to do or to figure out. You're sensing something that is potentially an issue. And sometimes if you just don't react, it never comes to fruition. Or if it does come to fruition, you're not caught off guard and you handle yourself very differently than if you were caught off guard. And so I would say the big issue here is you feel guilty for following your instincts, you know, and you know, I just had a situation like that not too long ago, and I knew if we had a conversation that I was fine, but the person was probably gonna I don't even know that I could say that they were gonna be obnoxious, but they just weren't getting what they wanted. And I really wasn't interested in doing what they wanted, you know, and so it was going to be this weird, uncomfortable conversation. And so whenever we would interact, I just kept it really short. Like, and I could feel them starting to go down the lane where they were going to start talking about it. And I changed the subject. Like, if they were going to do it, they're going to have to work hard at doing it. You know what I mean? And like in a situation like that, the guilt that's stirred up is still tied to this. And again, I can even give you the pattern for guilt. Because the issue is actually more the guilt than the
So is there ever a point in the developing of the three brains? I mean, would that just be going straight into the clairvoyance aspect of things?
I'm not sure what you're asking there. Like what would
Well, like, so I have this feeling, but I can't figure out why and what it is.
that's your logical mind wanting to have a strategy.
Okay.
Toss it. Like it never works out. Like
Okay.
it never works out. Like think about how many times you're like, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to say that and then they're going to do this and then I'm going to do that and then you go to do it and none of it happens. Right?
So just forget about it and don't care. Just move on.
Well, it's not necessarily forget about it, but you're aware of it. You're aware of what potentially might be coming your way, and you just manage that in motion, right? And it's almost like you have all your tools, and if they throw something at you, you're not caught off guard. You handle it in the moment. But when we start to anticipate what potentially might happen, you're going way into the left brain. You're kind of shutting off the intuitive component, and it really turns into just a state of like you're just worrying about the details of it all. And here, there's nothing to worry about. Like if
Okay.
it was like something where you really needed to resolve it, like, okay, there's a business partner, we got to have a talk, then I'd say you'd have a little bit of a strategy. But even then, it's like a little bit of strategy, a lot more intuition, because intuition makes the decisions quick and adjust and adapt. Logic doesn't. Logic just kind of keeps pushing through and is like a little bit abrasive or aggressive. And so in this particular case, there's no need for a strategy. It's not, a super important situation. It might be a little bit of embarrassing or a little bit of a conflict, like if you guys have a weird conversation. But if you keep it kind of light and you know what's going on, you just almost can avoid where that person's heading with it all. Who knows? It could be about politics, it could be about some she got upset about, who knows? Like this day and age, you never know. And so you just keep your wits about you and you keep adjusting. And I would say just work on the guilt so that you don't feel drawn to engage into a conflict that's not really your conflict. Right? You don't have a problem with her. She's not doing something harming you or anything like that, right? Like there's nothing going on. You just feel or sense something coming.
No, she's not doing anything.
Right. But you sense it coming, right?
Well, I feel like the strong sense of no communication whatsoever. Like to that degree. Like I kind of was just being careful, and then I started feeling like no communication, which is what I've been doing. But then she
I would
started
say minimal communication. I wouldn't completely cut it off. Like, because even like starting to cut it off still kind of engages the conflict just in a different degree. Basically it's like this. If there's going to be a conflict that you're sensing that she's bringing, she has to bring it all herself. You don't want to be the one that helps bring it in.
Okay.
Right? And you know what I mean? Like, so if she's going to make a thing about it, she's going to have to work extra hard to do it. And so even completely shutting her out is like kind of bringing it in, so to speak. And so you
Okay.
don't have to go out of your way, but I wouldn't go out of your way to say something, but I also wouldn't go out of your way to avoid them. Like you can just have like a simple, quick little conversation. And, if something comes up, you just start doing like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, could you explain it? You just start doing some of the things that but the thing that stimulates you to like kind of almost engage the conflict is the guilt. Like, I feel that I should do this. Like, sometimes like in different business settings and whatever, usually at some point I have a conversation with somebody who's like, just because somebody presents you with a conflict doesn't mean you have to resolve it. Like a lot of times it's not yours to resolve. So don't feel the need to resolve some conflict that has nothing to do with you. If they want to make a thing out of it, they can make a thing out of it. But most times they're just looking for a dance partner. You're just one of many where they're like doing this with. Just don't do the dance.
Okay.
But the guilt is the Velcro. You know what I mean? Like if you don't
Okay.
have the guilt in it, then it's just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. Because most times you don't. Like that's the thing too. Like, just like we talk about, like don't form those strategies in your head, like with the logic, like I'm going to do this or that, or I need to do this, I should have done that. You're dealing with their version of it as well. And sometimes people think that acting this out with you is going to resolve something, and it usually has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. So let's talk about guilt.
Okay.
Your outer thigh.
Okay.
So that would be violet flame, and then well, I'm bouncing back and forth between a couple classes,
Okay.
and then your mid back, which is emotional release, and then the sides of your neck would be mana.
Okay.
And like, so interesting, side of neck, stress of union.
Okay.
Like, do you really want to have union with this person and the conflict that they're trying to bring forward? Not really. You know what I mean? You don't have to have a oneness with other people's baggage.
Yeah. Well, and again, I don't know what's coming, but in the past,
And if you handle yourself right, it might not ever come. Like
okay.
that's the beautiful thing.
Like she tried
is-
to ask, well, she asked me for money, but she created like an emergency situation. So like to try to high pressure me into me like fronting her some money, which I did not do. So that's the only thing that I'm like, is she, like that's where my brain starts wanting to go. Like, not that she's going to be negative and nasty, more like just don't trust her for some reason kind of
You
stuff.
think she's using drugs?
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah.
So it's more like that, more like there's just something I don't trust.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, sometimes people fall on difficult times, but the aggression, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And are you guys good enough friends where she could ask you something like that? Or
Well, we weren't even before, but she did anyway.
yeah.
And it was a lot. It was like really not appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could be a person's just desperate or whatever, but now what you're saying makes more sense. I would definitely just don't completely shut her out. Just act like that conversation didn't happen. And then if she makes an issue of it, go, I don't understand. And then, if she's going to make a deal out of it, let her be the one. And then I just very politely go, maybe we need to not talk as much, or,
Yeah.
and you just say it politely, not mean, not angry, not whatever, but
Okay.
like, think of it like this. I don't know this person. I don't even know who you're talking about. I don't know whatever, but just years as a therapist, like people who might, I don't know. People have angles that they work, and there are certain people who really know how to work guilt. So if you take that off the table, you're just not vulnerable anymore.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You're just, yeah. Work the guilt thing and then let me know how you feel.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
And go ahead, Channing.
Hey, Miss Jenny.
Hi, Greg. Hi, Sam. First of all, I
Well-
really, yeah, go ahead, Greg.
I was gonna say, do you have like coworkers or whatever in your circle? You don't have to go into a lot of detail that might try to use guilt to manipulate you or manage you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know it.
yeah. I
Not
knew the
just
answer
one.
to that one, so like.
No,
knew-
well, I was just trying to think, like, was it a specific answer that
No,
I
I
could
was just,
give?
I
Or
just like
the answer
that's-
is yes, but it's
people
very
use-
broad.
people use and poke the guilt thing in us to try to get us to do things sometimes. I mean,
There are
yeah.
some, as you know, that do it
Yeah.
very intentionally, and then there are some that do it and they have no sense of self-awareness that they're doing it. So
Right.
that was what I was like, how do I answer that question? So
Yeah.
there's both.
but it's like their little strategy for handling the world.
Yeah. And I,
And if you watch other people, you watch how they interact when they try to push those buttons, you can kind of see where people are at. And like some people are fazed by it, some aren't fazed by it. And it's almost like, how we talked about these things as like a type of armor, like, our type of protection. Like if you take the guilt thing away, or
Mhm.
the shame button or whatever, it changes the dynamic of how you interact with people. It takes it off the table, where you become a little bit more, you just get to be more yourself, really. It's not even about like, oh, I got to do this or that to come out on top or to win. It's just like, I'm not dancing this dance. This is not.
Yeah.
So
I
anyway.
loved hearing the conversation just now, because for me, I've had people come out of the woodwork this entire year, old friends, not old, intimate relationships, but they're just friendships. And we're talking about like friendships that go 30 years back. And I am amazed that I'm amazed when they reach out and ask to reconnect again and to find out how I was doing. And for me, it's not a matter of guilt, but I don't have any common connection, because I was such a different person back then.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was more for me, it's not so much
Yeah.
a question about guilt, but it's more like using my discernment.
Yeah.
Is there
And
really a reason to connect?
Like the thing is like, I have some old friends from when I was young, and if we knew each other now and met each other now, we wouldn't even talk to each other. Like
Exactly.
we're such different places. But I have like a conversation with them maybe once every year, 18 months, something like that. And it's usually real short, but it's more out of like an honoring or a gratitude of the past. Like I don't feel the need to like cultivate something more, but I'm glad that I had friends along the journey, even if we're far apart now. I'm glad I had them back in the day. You know what I mean? And
I'm so glad you brought that forward, because maybe that
Yeah.
is, I hadn't
I
thought
would
about it
just,
from that perspective.
yeah, connect with them a little bit, but it doesn't mean, you guys got to be, BFFs and, shooting pictures of your Starbucks and like, hey, I'm having this morning. How about you? You don't have to do the whole
Here's
thing.
my
You
pink
just-
drink.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing is just, my friends that when I was from young, I don't even talk about what I do now. Samantha said it best, like a while back. She goes, I can't remember how you said it. You go, you don't really talk about yourself, and you pretend to be interested in what they're interested in. And I was like, kind of, like I'm in a very different world from them. They would not find it
Mhm.
interesting. And so I just honor the friendship that I had back then.
I like that.
Yeah.
For me, I was just like, I have so much going on that I'm probably
Yeah.
just gonna ignore.
Yeah.
But I like what you just said. Maybe come from a more honoring and
Yeah.
place of gratitude for
It's always
having had
nice
that connection.
to be grateful for the people you had connections with, however long ago it was.
Yeah, nothing bad had ever happened. It just
No.
kind of, like
Just
life
grow
kind of
apart,
takes you on a different path. And
life goes on, you
Mhm.
move different places, you go to different jobs, people get in relationships, some people have kids, all those
Yep.
things happen.
Yep. So here's my question.
Mhm.
It's really a question about prioritization. Like, what could I practice that will help me have a lot more clarity on what do I need to prioritize? Like, I have a lot of things that are calling my attention. Like there are always 5 things that I have to get done, and all 5 things require me to do things in 5 different ways in 5 different directions. So do you have any sense on what I could be
I
using? Oh, and by the way, I started putting cinnamon leaf. Like I got all 5 different cinnamons from our last conversation,
oh, good.
and I started using cinnamon leaf.
Yeah.
and
Cinnamon's amazing.
it is super strong, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
2 drops
Cinnamon's
is like,
amazing. Yeah. I told you there was a medical aromatherapist who's a physician that he made the statement. If people knew the therapeutic qualities of cinnamon, you wouldn't be able to get any because everybody would buy it up and, you know, stockpile it. And it's just, it does so many good things. But I would go deeper on the 3 brain. Like I would really work the 3 brain thing. You know, for one, it makes you more efficient in the things that you do, but also you'll start to kind of, you know, because it's a quicker decision mechanism, and you'll kind of intuit the things that maybe are more urgent or need your attention. You know, you'll be able to manage your time and energy to a much higher degree by practicing that. So
would it be the Artemisia and 3 brains? Or are you thinking
yeah,
about something differently?
let's graduate you to doing it with aloes.
Without oils?
No, aloes.
Oh, with aloes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Ooh, aloes.
Yeah, yeah,
You just got graduated.
yeah,
Oh man, oils. That's a real deal.
yeah, yeah.
So should I get I only have white oud.
Well,
So
yeah,
when you
use
say
white oud.
graduate, do I have to step
Yeah.
up my
No, just use white oud. Yeah,
aloes
that's
double
more than
A?
enough. You can be fancy, but white oud will get you there.
Double
I
A
like fancy,
Supreme.
Greg.
Yeah. Oh, who doesn't love fancy? But
What fancy options should I? I mean, if we're gonna upgrade, let's just upgrade.
well,
What are you
I
reading?
mean, they're by grade, so like whatever grade you want, but they get very pricey. Yeah. Have you looked at the
Tell
prices
me.
of Alice? Oh, like there's some that's, I think the most expensive one we have on the site is like 800 something for 5 mil. And there's one that I don't even put on the site because it's just crazy.
What's that called?
It's just aloes from a different region. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Robert. Put up the priciest one.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, I like usually when something smells nice, that usually resonates for me a little bit more. So if it's
Yeah,
super expensive and it doesn't smell as nice as something that's a little less expensive.
the scent is stronger, but like oud, like you can't even really say that oud smells like anything else. Like it has a very unique kind of scent, and then the different grades have a different energy and a different scent to them. And so
This is so funny. I see the plus.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can do a lot with the white oud.
Yeah.
But if you want fancy, you know, we can do fancy.
Do you want me just to use the what is it? The pattern.
Yeah, still like do the pattern that we've done a couple of times, both in Astara, and I think we did over the weekend, where you go sex, Mingmen,
Yep.
front solar, back heart, brain, crown. Yeah, go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll give that a go.
Yeah, we're going to be, you know, busting out like deeper ways to make that stronger, but it's good to do it just in steps rather than, you know, full throttle all at once, because I mean it shifts you big time. But yeah.
Greg, I have a question that might be a little bit kind of out a bit on a tangent, but I'm just going to ask it anyways, and you let me know if you don't see there is a connection. We have an ant infestation just on the windowsill, nowhere else. and we put these ant baits that require patience. Like you can't just hose them down, wipe them up. So these ant baits we set on the windowsill, and for a couple of days they just started swarming, and it was really amazing to watch because it's so overwhelming. But then the next day they were completely gone, and now they're back again. Like I just wanted to see if there was anything energetically that was kind of attached
No,
to.
you just got ants.
Okay, good.
Like do that, and like chalk is a good way to keep them away. So you can use like chalk in different places if the ant thing doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like different areas. I don't know about Seattle, but different areas they're seasonal. Like they'll kind of come in through the pipes or through the crevices, like the door or the windows, and they'll have their time and then they're gone. And so, especially if they're not being attracted by, garbage or, food or whatever. But
It
Yeah.
kind of makes me sad to see them. Just it kind of makes me sad to see them go from, swarming and, very energetic and busy to just dead on my windowsill. That I don't know
Yeah.
why that makes me feel a little weepy.
yeah, I mean, you can try, like chalk keeps them away. Chalk doesn't kill them. Like, they just don't engage the chalk. And so, you can try to do that, but you got to keep your house, hygienic. And so,
Yeah.
I remember asking the guru about that, and he said, yeah, you try to be as gentle as you can, but still have to be hygienic in the house. So, is what it is.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this
You're so
session.
welcome.
And then we just have a couple questions in chat. What is neck and upper back related to?
What part of the neck? And it's in your notes, but I'm going to look it up for you. But it's also in your notes. Upper back is about letting go. And then what part of the neck?
You can type in, you can unmute yourself, whatever you want to do.
How about I'll just say all three?
Okay.
Front of the neck is irrational fear. Sides of neck is stress of union. And then back of neck is repetitive thoughts.
Then another question was, were the hips included with the butt cheeks or the pelvis?
We didn't do it, but the hips can be there. It's in the notes. It's trauma, psychological trauma. The hip sockets, psychological trauma.
Would Greg repeat the 3-brain pattern to use with the aloes?
Sure. Sex chakra. Then the low back area known as the Ming Men. The front solar. Then the back heart. And then the brain. And then the crown.
And that's great. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out on a Monday. It was a nice little treat. Okay, you guys. So tomorrow night we have our normal study group Q&A and everything. And Wednesday, the study group for the gland, energetics of the glands. And I think people had a really good experience with that weekend. It's a free class, so if you didn't do it, maybe get the download so you can go through and follow. We did a very slow roll through the whole weekend, and I would say it's very calming, very soothing. And what would you say? You feel like more energy and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I wrote it in the newsletter.
Yeah.
70% more energy.
Yeah.
I forgot. Teresa? how are
Oh
you?
yeah, Teresa.
Thank you for raising.
Okay. So
How do
it's
you-
shifting. it's shifting around. It went from, it's the lower back to like the occiput area.
Okay.
And I'm wondering, could the repetitive thoughts be psychic projection?
Or it could be these cords that I'm cutting from. Yeah.
Oh, I feel like I'm gonna be really ill.
Yeah. I don't know why that didn't dawn on me right off the bat. I forgot about your situation at work. How you doing? Okay.
Oh, the nausea is gone. Still like something in the back of the neck.
Back of the neck. Okay.
Yeah.
Just a second.
Like,
This is all coming from other people, by the way.
oh, thank you.
Is that situation almost done?
I hope so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I hope so. I will say that Violet Flame has helped me separate myself a bit from
Yeah.
it tonight.
Boy, it's like you're wrestling with an octopus. How are you feeling now?
The nausea's gone, the lower back's better. There's still a little bit something like just in that fleshy part where the occiput hits the back of the neck. Something just went right there.
How's that feel?
A lot better, thank you.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, I think I already know the answer to my question. So I think this coming weekend would be good, right? For me to join in.
Yeah, it would be a good one for you. Like it makes it harder for people like their chords to like stick. Like, it takes you a while to go through and do it, but it makes it harder and harder for people's projections to stick.
Okay.
It's like you're taking away the Velcro, or you're making it like old Velcro where sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't. But you got a bunch of projections at you. Yeah. I'm sure that's accumulated over, a week or so or whatever, but it's not even like anger. It's just like, I won my way. Like that's the vibe I get when I'm
What is it?
cutting down. I want my way.
Oh yeah.
I just want my way.
Yeah, there's a few of them. It happens to be coming from females now.
Yeah. It's
Well-
usually more of a position and a personality than it is male or female.
Oh, I was just looking at the pattern of where I
Yeah.
see it from.
Yeah,
So it's a position. So it's really just ego taking control.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I see that.
You know, and it's interesting because sometimes people can step into a position and almost be humbled by it and really take the responsibility of like, I really need to perform. And then there's people who are like, yeah, now I get to do whatever I want to do, and you have to do what I say.
Yeah. Well, I'm having that experience right now with an individual who has no authority. So they just keep stepping into their own trap.
Yeah.
But oh, okay. Anyway,
And you know, like doing the 3 brain stuff, especially in the corporate setting, it's a lifesaver. It's such a lifesaver. So like just keep doing the practice and keep doing it. And you know, even when I don't know that you could do a whole lot of things different here, but it just makes it so that you survive better and you bounce things out of your field. At some point, what happens is your energy field becomes reflective. And so when they bounce it at you, you know, when they project it at you, it just bounces back to them. But I mean that takes a while. But it's anybody who practices, that's a potential. Like, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Sounds great. I guess I'll see you this
Especially
weekend.
especially in the corporate setting, that can be, you know, going into battle with your armor on all the time.
Yeah.
You know, this guru I used to know, you know, he was a guru, but he also was a very smart businessman. He ran businesses on the other half of his life.
Mhm.
And he said, business is just civilized warfare. Like, we're very civilized about it, but it's still warfare. You know, sometimes we think we're on the same team, and we're not always on the same team.
Oh gosh, no. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
I think maybe you can offer something for me here because I think I automatically go to it doesn't need to be that way. I think it brings up like deep sadness. Maybe that's why it went to the heart.
Yeah, like I would work these things in the body map and then the body wisdom thing and the 3 brains, because it goes from it doesn't need to be this way when you know, yes, that's the case, but we're talking about human nature, you know, and people being in different places, and it turns into like, how are we going to do this dance? We could do it in a nice way, or we can do it in a negative way. But you know, this is gonna, you know, we're gonna do this process, we're gonna do this goal, whatever it is, you know, you get to choose how it's gonna go down. Like to you, it almost like gets to a place where it just doesn't matter. Like if you're being nice, great. And if you're being negative, still gonna handle you. You know, it's just is what it is.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I hope that for all you guys. Be it, you know, personal stuff or business or whatever. It's just in the business setting, it's the heat's turned up quite a bit. So
Yep.
yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I
You're
appreciate
so
it.
welcome.
Okay.
Let us know if we can do something for you.
All right. Wonderful. Have a great evening.
Take care. Take care.
And go ahead, Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Hey, Greg. My neck, the back of my neck, my shoulder blades, and like in between my shoulder blades have really been bothering me the last 2 days. And you just cut Teresa's cords, and I felt relief. Is that
Did you really?
normal?
Sometimes when I'm doing stuff up here, like, you know, because I do like group healings all the time, you know, maybe that's what was happening, because there was just a bunch of cords on her. Maybe I was grabbing from the collective, but yeah, you don't like up in that area, you're not too corded. You do have a little thing on your Mingman though.
Yeah, we don't want anything on my Mingman.
No. In your forehead. How's that feel?
I promise you, I was thinking of what I needed to do to be able to go to sleep tonight. And when you did that with Teresa, I can't believe how much relief I got.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
we-
Chords. I mean, we don't really realize they're there. And so, you know, before I knew about them, I'd always be like, oh, God, I feel so anxious. And so this is what I would say about chords. Like, you know, I was going to tell you some little story of mine, but it's not as good as this story. So, you know, during the years where I was a full-time therapist, I had different times where I was specializing in certain things. You know, I was specialized in trauma, and then, you know, physical traumas, and then certain kinds of psychological traumas. You know, there's just all these different periods of time. You know, I had my different phases, right? And so for a while I did addiction. Like I was always doing other things, but like I'd say like half my, 30 people out of the week I was treating were like dealing with some sort of addiction. And so there was these young women, and I cut the cords to their sex chakra, like in they were like 25, attractive. So I would cut the cords a whole bunch, and they'd all say like, some version of what was that, but one of them was really like, what was that? And I was like, ugh, she, I'm cutting cords on the sex chakra. She thinks I'm probably doing something sexual. I was like, it's just like, I started like trying to like explain it, and like I wasn't doing a good job of it. I was, talking about energy and this and that. And she goes, look, whatever you just did, that's the reason I drink. And so I was like, really? And she goes, yeah, whatever that was. As soon as you did whatever you did, like I don't have the craving, I don't feel the need, I don't have any of it. And so I asked the other two, I go, like, when I was doing session, did the cravings go away? They were like, yeah, whatever you did that one session completely went away. The cords like can cause like tensions, anxieties, to the point where it's very uncomfortable. And if you think like in that situation, there's guys trying to be willful to get their way in those situations, and they wouldn't know what was going on, and they would try to make sense of it. They couldn't make sense of it. So their way to handle it was to drink. And so that's how profound the cords can be. Like it can literally almost like change behaviors because it's so uncomfortable.
Do you cut cords daily?
I used to, but how we're just talking about the field gets more reflective. I just cut them now when I feel something, but I really don't, unless somebody's really upset at me, and it's not even something where I'm interacting with the person. It's just stuff from the distant past where they see something on social media or something that, not even with Plant Prana, but with other things that we do in some of the other businesses, that they get a little riled up, and I'll call and go, did you post anything? And they go, oh yeah, totally. And so that's when I'll feel it. And even then it's doing the body map and the body wisdom thing is a game changer. And then when I'm in the areas, we're doing these ceremonies to empower the three brain. Just one ceremony, it can be a literal game changer for somebody. It's a Buddhist ceremony that basically just kind of purifies the projections that have been projected at you. And it's like, as soon as you kind of pull out of it, it's just, it changes the energy body. And so now wherever we go, like every time, Saturday night, we're doing the ceremony, wherever it is. And so I know you're not going to be in Louisville, but we'll be back around sometime soon. And if you're around somewhere close to where we're at, you know, you don't have to do the class that weekend. Just come in for Saturday night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
Great questions.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a great night.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
you
we hope
guys.
to do it in North Andover too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, wherever we go, we're doing it. Like we've already done it a few times. We use this thing, it's called a Milong. It's like basically a metal mirror. And the ones that we got are about 500 years old, and we got them from the royal family of Bhutan. And so they've only been used by high lamas for, you know, the 450, 500 years. And so we use that in the ceremony. And I think Sam's addicted, don't. It's like, what do you want to do? Let's do Milong. Yeah. But I mean, it shifts things in ways that cuts down the amount of time it takes to heal something or purify the field.
So is watching that, a recording of that, something that would benefit us or?
It's
not?
actually it's an in-person thing, because like we hold the Milong up and then we pour holy water over like you look at your reflection, and as you're looking on your reflection, you pour holy water on it. So it does need to be like in person. But
Got it.
I tried to do one at a distance. It just didn't work that great. But you know, I always have it with me, and if whenever you're around, we'll do it. So
Thank you. Appreciate it.
you're so welcome. Oh, okay, you guys. Well, we'll see you hopefully tomorrow night and for study group, and we'll talk then. Take care.